Hi there. Okay, I want you all not to worry. Trump has got this. Okay, I know he's changed his political strategy, and a lot of you think, well, maybe he's not doing the right thing, or I wish he would have done this, or I hate that he wore a mask. No, you have to understand, he's smart on this. As someone who was in politics a bit, you have to understand, politics is a different game. You can't expect a person to do everything that you want to do. They operate within limitations. So, my own take, and the take of others, I'm not the only one that feels this way, is that he's got this. He's got this. So there's a lot going on in our country, so many changes, lots to talk about. I've actually felt pretty good this week, and I've been able to reframe my thinking on some things, and I hope to bring you along, because any time that you spend worrying about this is wasted. Now, what I found that is when you're hit with bad news or whatever, there is a period of adjustment. You might feel upset, but if you stay upset, then how are you different from the left? You have people on the left who are so worried about overpopulation and climate change, and it's silly stuff that they're worried about that they don't have to worry about. So how are you any different? Okay? If you're going to be so worried about where the country's going. One of the things I've learned in my many years, I'm going to be 66 and a half next week, is that there's always a backlash. When change comes too fast, there is always a backlash, because it takes a while for people to react, people who don't like it, okay? And so many changes have occurred with all these riots and the like, masks, whatever. Don't worry about it, okay? First of all, let's talk about masks for a moment. I jotted some of this down. I have a different thought about masks now. I still think they're silly. You don't need to wear them, but here's how I do it. Okay? People will get tired of wearing the masks. So at first it was like, really? Do they think we're going to wear masks all the time? No, I don't think we will. It's like a fad, and people will get tired of it. One of the things I noticed, and I got this when I responded, somebody said, have you ever been accosted about wearing a mask, not wearing a mask? And I said, yes, the 3 times I was accosted. I just yelled back at them. Don't mess with me. And then I realized, oh, it wasn't about the mask. It was about the social distancing. They were freaked out that I might have the virus, and they wanted me farther away. So I thought, when I was outdoors, it wasn't about the mask. Because, we have signs all over the place at the park, wear a mask. And a lot of people follow that, thinking you have to wear a mask. But there are plenty of people that don't wear the masks, as I've mentioned before. And I'm just not going to do it. But there is the store. So when I go in the grocery store, I have to wear a mask. So I went to the grocery store twice last week. I usually go once a week into Gelson's, and I thought, let me just try something. So after I walked in past the mask person who said, welcomes you to the store, I pulled the mask down below my nose. Because frankly, in terms of health, I just read a whole book called Breath, and it talked about the importance of breathing through your nose. So I thought, I'm breathing through my nose. And here was my plan. My plan was, if someone asked me or said, hey, your mask, I'll just go, oh, I'm so sorry. It slipped. Okay? But nobody said a word. And it was kind of crowded at the store. It wasn't like there was nobody there. And even through the checkout counter, nobody said a word. Then I went again Friday morning, which is the normal time I go. same thing. And then I saw the man ahead of me at the checkout counter, he had it below his nose too. And then I realized that as long as you have the mask on in some acceptable way, nobody really cares. Nobody really cares now. People are not afraid of this virus anymore. They're not. But they have the rules, okay? Now you can choose to attack the rule head on. I have not found that to be a good strategy for me or for living your life. Because there are many, many things in life that you have to play the game. Let me give you a few examples. Let me see, I've got it written down here somewhere. Well, marijuana. Now, I was never a marijuana user. I never liked it, but I had tried it, you know, in the early 70s. Pretty much all my friends did. So when I went to sign up for the Air Force, I remember they had just opened up electronics and mechanics jobs to women. So the recruiter was very excited because I did really well on the math tests, and you know, he wanted to find women who could fill the quota. So I'm looking through the questionnaire, and then we come to the part that says, have you ever smoked marijuana? Now they've changed it. It's like, have you smoked it more than 4 times or something? At least they changed it at some point to that. So I looked at the question. I said, just hypothetically, what would happen if I said yes? Just hypothetically, of course. And he said, I can't tell you what to say, but you won't be able to join the Air Force. So I said, oh, good thing I've never smoked marijuana. And then I answered no, okay? The same was true for homosexual people, because if you were homosexual, you couldn't get in the military at that time. So you had to play the game. And with secret and top secret security clearances, you had to play the game, and everybody did it. You just didn't talk about it. Now, you could be that one honest person that says, I'm going to answer honestly, but I got to tell you, it's a tough life doing that. And I don't think you win that way. I mean, eventually, the time was ripe to get rid of that question, but until that happened, you're better off playing the game. So right now with these stupid mask rules, just test the limits. You know, have it slip down. Wait till somebody says something, go, oh, sorry. Put it back up. As soon as they walk by, let it slip down again. That's how we do this. That's how we do this. Don't ever give up your power. But to live in this world, sometimes there's mad crazes going on. If you just try to stand up right then and be the one person, it's going to be tough. So that's been my strategy. Another strategy, by the way, as I was thinking about this, is, by the way, for those of you interested, that marijuana question was in November 1993. And every time, because when I was at RAND, I had a top secret security clearance, every time you can't change it, right? So it was always no, because otherwise you'd have to say, well, I didn't tell the truth before. But then when I was getting my position in the Clinton administration and I was getting vetted, I told him the story. And I said, I've always put down no. But yeah, I had tried it. Not very much, but I did. And by that time, you know, that was when Bill Clinton had famously said during the campaign that he didn't really inhale, but he puffed for marijuana. So it was time for that to go away. And that's when you could start being honest about it. But if I tried to do it earlier, I wouldn't have gotten in the Air Force. I wouldn't have had all those opportunities, you know? So, and it was so silly. It was such a stupid rule because I'm so kind of anti-drug or alcohol, or I was never what we call a stoner. Never. I mean, I didn't like that. I mean, if I was going to abuse anything, it's like caffeine or anything that's like an upper. I like that better. But I've never liked alcohol. I mean, I'll have some occasionally, but I don't care for it. And I never liked marijuana. Made me feel paranoid. And who needs that? So, right now we're going through this whole thing with systemic racism and all those different things. That also will change. Because right now, it's kind of a discrimination or almost like a preference for minorities. And that will change. Because we had affirmative action in the 70s and 80s, and then I remember there was a guy, I think his name is Baki. He sued to get into medical school because, I don't remember the details, but it changed everything. Because it said at that time, because he was white, and he said, you know, because he wasn't a minority, there were quotas, he couldn't get in. And it was some big case, and suddenly affirmative action was getting a bad name. Now the reason I know that is because I was very affirmative action, particularly for women. That was my thing. And when I was the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Command, Control, and Communication, my level was what's called an SES 6. That was the top level that you could have in government service. You go GS 1 through 15, and then you get in senior executive service. But it was getting over that hurdle from GS 15 to SES 1, which was hard, because it's like going from the working ranks to an executive rank. And I really wanted to help a woman named Cindy. She was definitely ready for that, to get her that promotion. Let me tell you, I had to go through a lot to make that happen. And I had to be very careful. Because I'll be honest with you now, I did want her to get it. I thought she was the best, but you have to send up the opportunity for that position or whatever. You had to send it out to, it had to be posted so people could try to do it. So what happened was, and then also, I had to have a staff, a little committee, evaluate the 6 people that were the top candidates. And at first they were going to rate them, 1 through 6. And I said, no, don't rate them. I just want to say, are they acceptable or not? Because I knew if they rated them 1 through 6, then I really was caught between a rock and a hard place. I would have to pick the number 1, because why would I be going against the committee's recommendations? So I said, no, just say whether they're acceptable or not. And of course, Cindy was acceptable as well as some others. So then I wrote a recommendation to my boss, the Assistant Secretary of Defense. And he was going to go with what I wanted. I mean, the decision was mine. I wrote a letter saying, I recommend Cindy. And then I just added that also it would be good to get more women in the senior executive service. Well, the principal deputy, a guy who later committed suicide and had been a general in the Air Force, he said, Deborah, you should take that sentence out. Because I guess I wasn't aware that affirmative action was not popular. He said, take it out. I'm so glad I did. I am so glad I did. So I took it out, and then I sent the letter, and Cindy got the position. Because later, one of the guys on the thing, he filed suit. And by this time, I was out of, I had left the Pentagon, but I had the attorneys call me, and I had to make a statement. And I thought, because the guy said she was picked because she was a woman. But I had plenty of good arguments why she was the better person for that position. But all I'm saying is, affirmative action was a big thing in the 70s and 80s, okay? And suddenly it was not a good thing. So what do you think about all of these people putting this stuff in and saying all these things? Do you think that's always going to be that way? Do you don't think that there's going to be a change later going in another direction? You bet there will, okay? And a lot of these people who are saying horrible things about white people and they should be killed or whatever, they're going to be in big trouble, okay? So that's another lesson, that whatever you do, whatever your opinion is, don't put anything down or on the internet that could really hurt you later. And what I mean by that, not like I support Trump, but really mean, ugly things that in a different context would make a difference, okay? Stating your views is fine. I'm patriotic. Okay, never is that going to be a problem. Or I support the president. Never is that going to be a problem. But just because it's okay to talk about white fragility and all these other things, and I'll have something to say about that, doesn't mean that those views won't become very unpopular at some point in the future. Because there'll be a backlash. There already is a backlash. Okay. We talk about white fragility. There's a book, okay? Amazon's pushing it. It's like #1. It's a horrible, horrible book. I would not read it because I would not want to pay for it or buy it or give it any more credibility. But I thought, why is that a bestseller? And here's the reason. Think about it. You have a vice president for diversity on your staff. What is this person going to do? What does that even mean? Okay, so what are you going to do? You're going to hold workshops. You're going to buy books to pass out. Companies have always done that. They buy books and they pass them out. So it doesn't mean that everybody believes this. I mean, it really means we need to get rid of all vice presidents for diversity. I mean, that's just a terrible thing. Okay? They obviously aren't doing their job because they don't believe in political diversity, but whatever. So think about people who are forced at work to go to these workshops to talk about racism. Do you really think a lot of the people are going to buy into this? I mean, what happens? Companies have always done this, where you have these workshops and where you explore your feelings. I remember this one guy who ended up being, I think, Deputy Secretary of State, but I knew him at Rand. And he said, you never say your real feelings at these workshops, because, they try to get you to express your feelings. He said, you never do that. You just play the game. And of course you play the game. You don't. So if people have to say, yeah, I'm racist, or I've got these it's a game, and they know it, and they resent it. They resent it. Now there'll be a few people who it touches on something, some feeling of inner guilt that has really nothing to do with being white or whatever, but they'll buy into it because it'll give them a cause. But I wouldn't really worry too much about it. Here's another thing that's kind of positive that I like. In this current cancel culture, or this attempt to purge the history, it's also hurting the left. But it's actually bringing things to light that we know about, but the left doesn't necessarily know about. So for example, when I started looking into the whole climate alarmism issue and reading many, many books, one of the things I found out or read a lot about was the eugenics, how the whole science community, all the major scientific organizations, they were all about favoring eugenics up until World War II. Well, I just got a letter from Caltech where Robert Millikan, the first president. He's famous for this oil drop experiment. I mean, he really built up Caltech. He'd been a scientist at, I think, the University of Chicago, but he's a major figure in Caltech history. Well, now they don't know what to do, okay, because they're worried about his eugenics. So they've appointed a committee. So I was talking about this with my stepson and friend, Robert, yesterday. I was reading the letter because his uncle and my brother-in-law, is it ex-brother-in-law? My husband passed away, or whatever. I don't really talk to him too much, but he's heading up the committee. And they're going to make recommendations about what you do about the statues and the history and the building names and things like that. And I really liked what Robert said. He said, come on, how much brain power can you put on such a minor thing? It's like, why are we doing this? Okay? They're just so afraid. I'm just so disgusted. I'm sorry. I used to love Caltech, and I'm just getting more and more disillusioned. But in doing this, I don't know that people on the left really knew that much about the eugenics movement. In other words, this is a history that's already been not known about. But the very act of saying we got to do something about it is going to bring it to light. In the same way that Margaret Sanger, I mean, she was heralded as a feminist icon, the founder of Planned Parenthood, but she was very much into eugenics, the KKK, she was against blacks. I mean, she was horrible. And that is coming to light, so much so that they're taking the name of Margaret Sanger off of some Planned Parenthood headquarters. Now, in the act of doing that, that forces people to say, oh, she's not so great after all? I mean, you just go back 10, 20 years ago. Margaret Sanger was spoken of very highly, and you can even hear clips of Hillary Clinton talking about how Margaret Sanger's her heroine. You know, I was watching a program about United States history, or what happened during the whole 20th century, and it was made in 2000, and they spoke very highly about what Margaret Sanger did in this program. Well, if somebody was doing it now, they wouldn't, because all of this is coming to light. So you don't have to just listen to Dinesh D'Souza and all, you know, Uncle Tom, the documentary about the history of the Democratic Party. All of this is coming to light, how bad the Democrats were. Even the Sierra Club, they're worried about John Muir, their founder, because he was very much into eugenics and whatever. So their heroes are getting destroyed. But in the act of destroying them, what should happen is we learn about it, okay? It's actually getting known about. So I was talking to a definitely leftist guy, and I mentioned that Woodrow Wilson, the Woodrow Wilson Institute or Center at Princeton, they want to change the name because he was very much into the KKK. And he was kind of surprised by that. Like, he wouldn't believe me if I just told him that Woodrow Wilson was into that. But when you hear that they're thinking of changing the name, then it's forcing you to look back at the Democrats and say, whoa, wait a minute. What were they about? So I'm taking a positive view of all this, how it all shakes out. Now, what I'm hoping that this Caltech committee, what they do is don't take away the history, but just explain what was going on. We should know that about science, because the scientific community was very, very much into eugenics. until it got a bad name with Hitler. And then they call it in other ways, worried about overpopulation and things like that. I mean, they're still kind of doing it, but that's another issue. It's our responsibility to stay upbeat, okay? If you find that listening to something or doing something is upsetting you, like, for example, I don't watch scenes of riots in Portland. I don't watch those at night because I find it intrudes upon my sleep. I need to give my mind some time to process it. But if I look at, if let's say there was no news, except for some restrictions on, like, I can't do the traveling rings at the beach. But I mean, look at, it's very peaceful. It's very peaceful in my neighborhood. I have a wonderful life. And I'm not going to ruin it. People throughout history have always worried, okay? Now, I want to talk to, Katrina Bowman, one of my wonderful, I mean, I feel like people are my friends when they comment on my videos. I really care about them, but I love it. She's so positive, okay? And one of the things she said in her comment to my last video was, in the end, we will win. And that is true, because we are on the side of, well, I'll just say the side of right. We're on the side of empowerment, of success, of happiness, of really what we humans need, okay? Family, religion, or something close to it. And just being good people, nice people. We're on that side. The other side, they're really mentally disturbed, and it's not a happy way to live. It's not a happy way to live. All of it. I've read so many self-help books. They're all about that. So if you find yourself worrying, ask yourself why. Because maybe it's triggered by something from your childhood. And I'm talking to you, Joni Beck, in Australia. I haven't had a chance to answer your comment. And it really got me thinking. And one of the things you said, it was very, overall, she talked about she needs to be uplifted and she gets upset if she does this. So Joni, you said, I still worry for my children's future. Don't. The best thing you can do, okay, for your children's future is teach them to be strong. Teach them to notice what's going on, talk to them, but don't worry about their future, okay? Don't worry about their future. Worrying does nothing. You're just teaching them to worry, okay? Now, I'm not saying you're doing that, but I'm encouraging you, if you are, that is not a good message to send to children. Because when you teach them to worry, you are teaching them, that you don't have power. Never, ever give up your power, okay? It's your personal power. I spent 3 hours yesterday FaceTiming with my niece, Lindsay. I love her. She's so inspiring. She's got her 3 kids, the things that she does, and they're all navigating. They're all mad at all her friends. They're mad at Gavin Newsom about what to do about the schools. But she is so positive. And her kids are doing great. She's just, it's like, that's how you do it, And when they have to wear the mask, like when they went on a trip, they made it a game. They took it off when they had. But she's talking to them. And her husband too, Mike. I mean, he's so great. But anyway, it was just wonderful. and what her friends are doing with, she does Pilates every day, and I mean, they're finding ways to get around these restrictions. They're refusing to be cowed. They're refusing to be cowed. And if you let them make you worried, then you are giving them too much power. So I'm not saying you won't be worried sometimes, but use that as an opportunity for inner growth, okay? Use that as an opportunity. You are not alone, okay? I mean, I remember when I sort of did the Ancestry.com thing, and it got me a subscription to the Fresno Bee. And it was so fascinating because I was reading about my aunt. She was like in the society pages. And so I was learning things about my family from that. And I was reading the articles. But you know what parents were so worried about in the 1950s? Their kids were reading comic books. I mean, it's really funny. And I have found that to be true, that you're so worried. Look, your kids, they're going to have a different environment than you had, okay? The younger generation, they're in a different... So what you do is try to help give them the tools to navigate and to be strong and to be discerning and hopefully be good citizens, like vote. I mean, come on, people. We absolutely have to vote, okay? I'm sorry, I don't understand people that don't vote. I never understood that, never. Because that's saying that I don't matter. And yes, you do matter. You do matter. By the way, speaking of voting, okay, I admit I felt a little bit worried about this, but I have a plan now. So I get this big thing, said, vote safely at home, make your voice heard. And it's all about LA Vote. You can vote by mail. And then I thought, what if I go to vote on November 3rd, and when I go to vote, they say, oh, you already voted, meaning somebody got my mail-in vote and put it in. So if you're in California, I urge you to make sure that you receive your vote by mail and don't use it, go in and vote normally on November 3rd. Because if I don't receive one, that means somebody else picked it up and is sending it in as my vote. So I think we're going to be okay, but make sure you actually receive the ballot, okay? Because otherwise, I'm going to be concerned that somebody would send it in as a fake thing, would pick it up, and then how would I know? I don't want to go in November 3rd all excited about who I'm voting for, obviously Donald Trump and every Republican in the area, and find out, oh, I'm sorry, you've already voted. I mean, what? Okay? That would be disaster. So all of us in California, we have got to make sure that you receive your vote by mail. You receive it, okay? Well, I think that will do it for today. Stay upbeat, people. And let me tell you, I love what, one more thing. Our president is really doing well. When I look at what he's doing politically, and I love the fact that he knows how to change course. He saw that what was happening was not working. He is definitely doing well politically, okay? A lot of times people will say, like someone made a comment like, he should appoint Tony Heller, whom I love. Tony Heller's good. But people, I think you do not, you have to realize that politics is a very different game. Like, what I love here now is that I can say whatever I want. I am free to speak my mind, okay? Even if you're on a guest on, say, one of the Fox News shows. So I had a chance to talk to Tammy Bruce. She came by the house because we knew each other back in the 90s and we were both in the LA women's vote scene. She was head of the local national organization for women now. And so we reconnected. And I said, so what do you think about when you speak? And she said, the problem is you say it and then you're just sort of frustrated afterwards. Like, I really wanted to say that other point and I didn't get to say it. And also, you're asked a question. You have to comment on whatever the host wants you to comment on. So, by the way, I love to watch her now. I think she's great and I really like it. You know, she gets her views in when she's the guest host, which she often is. But here, I can say whatever I want. Tony Heller can say whatever he wants. You have to understand, if you are in a political position, you are not free to say whatever you want. You have to choose your words very carefully. Very carefully. And you have to go with, you want to make sure that you don't speak against whoever your boss is, meaning the administration. It's a very difficult navigating job, and so you become careful. And what I love about our president is he is so refreshingly himself. I've never seen that in a president, never, okay? And I think we all instinctively know that, those of us that love him. And he's smarter than they are. He has been in that world. He understands what's going on, and he's learning more and more all the time. So it's fun to watch him. It's fun to watch him because you are watching a real pro, And then we just got to do our part in supporting him and supporting these other candidates. Vote red. Just vote red. We need to show the Democrats that what they're doing now is so bad, okay? No. The silent majority, we're rising up, and we will win. Remember that, okay? Do not get depressed. And if you want to watch some good shows, Michael Knowles has pointed out some good things, and also Andrew Klavan, he's very good. So I encourage you to watch them. And don't watch the things that, if you find that is just kind of something that's depressing you, don't watch it. Don't watch it. Stay positive, turn it around in your head, and enjoy your life. My God, enjoy your life, okay? Because this is the only life we have right now, okay? All the worries and depression in the world is not going to change that, okay? Count your blessings. Be grateful. And I got 2.5K subscribers now. And 20,000 people watched my weekly video number 25, where I talked about how I'm now pro-life. It's amazing. Just amazing. Anyway, I really feel quite a lot of affection for all of you. And don't freak out, Andy. Talk to you later.